Marks a full 10 years of its digital mission this week. Internet connections in the country have surged from 250 million in 2015 to over 970 million today. 100 billion transactions every year are now processed online via the UPI. That's nearly half of real-time transactions globally. And the number is rising fast, covering more and more sections of the society. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi puts it, Digital India is not just a government scheme, but a people's movement. Hello and welcome, I'm Samiksha Srivastava and this is Inside South Asia. The Dalai Lama turns 90 on the 6th of this month. He announced this week that he would have a successor to carry forward his legacy. There are clear signs of China determined to get its own way, and tensions on the issue heating up further. In a powerful message to his followers and to the world, the Dalai Lama said that he will be reincarnated, and that only his trust would control the future of his office. The announcement marks a huge turning point. For years, the Dalai Lama had left open the possibility that he may be the last in line.
Dalai Lama Tenzi Jazu Per Jalo Nidon Jada Ngachungai Rojun Shubdunbe Shingju Nosu Se Nidu Chiru Nidon Jumi Nisha Noanga Se Nishi Law Kiva Gawar Gyurchis.
This completely undercuts Beijing's assertion that the Chinese government must approve any successor.
The reincarnation of the Dalai Lama must adhere to the principle of domestic search, golden urn draw and approval by the central government, and be handled in accordance with religious rituals, historical customs, and national laws and regulations.
The Dalai Lama himself has earlier said that if China appoints a successor, people should reject that choice. The successor battle has deepened an already tense standoff. While Beijing labels the Dalai Lama a separatist, the United States has repeatedly stated that only the Tibetan community can decide on who their spiritual leader will be. A senior Tibetan official has clarified that the current Dalai Lama is in good health and that there are no rules set on the nationality of the successor.
There is no traditional kind of restriction. Dalai Lama should be born in Tibet. Dalai Lama born in Mongolia, the third one, And Dalai Lama born today in India, the sixth Dalai Lama, and there's no nationality or geographical boundary.
So if His Holiness is born in a not free world, in a controlled authoritarian regime, then His Holiness would not have the freedom to carry forward his responsibilities. That is why His Holiness says he will be in a free world. And India obviously is a very likely choice for His Holiness, because there has to be a relation between the parents and the community that His Holiness will born.
Penpa Sering, president of the Tibetan government in exile, has confirmed that the United States has recently lifted funding restrictions for the Tibetan exile community. As Washington seeks to push back against China's growing global influence, celebrations are underway in Dharamshala for the Dalai Lama's birthday. The gathering has attracted spiritual leaders, dignitaries and well-wishers from across the globe, including the popular actor Richard Gere. Moving on, India has once again turned the global spotlight on Pakistan's role in cross-border terrorism. At key international fora, top Indian leaders have accused Islamabad of sheltering terrorists and using extremism as a state weapon. The statements come amid rising tensions following recent attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. We track the tough talk and growing diplomatic pressure on Pakistan.
Tough words, a sharpened tone, and India's clear message to the global community that terrorism emanating from Pakistan is no longer just India's problem.
India will identify every terrorist and punish.
At the United Nations, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar did not mince words.
The world must come together on some basic concepts. No impunity to terrorists, no treating them as proxies, and no yielding to nuclear blackmail.
New York in the United States to Qingdao in China, the message is consistent. Pakistan's terror infrastructure remains active and India will not stay silent. At the SCO Defence Ministers meet in China, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh took an unprecedented stand, refusing to sign a joint statement that ignored terrorism.
India on 7th May 2025 successfully launched Operation Sindoor to dismantle cross-border terrorist infrastructure. We reiterate the need to hold the perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of reprehensible acts of terrorism, including cross-border terrorism, accountable and bring them to justice.
But the scourge remains, with countries like Pakistan and China looking at terror worldwide through the lens of vested interests. The idea of good terrorists and bad terrorists. At the Pakistan Naval Academy in Karachi, Pak Army Chief Asim Munir pledged political and moral support to terrorists operating in Kashmir, brazenly justifying the monster.
We stand firm with the Kashmiri people for their right of self-determination. What India tends to term as terrorism is in fact the legitimate struggle as per the international convention.
Good Taliban, bad Taliban. Good terror, bad terror. Outlooks on hate molded by sheer convenience and political leaning. It boils down to terror being allowed to thrive. India shifts from defensive diplomacy to active naming and shaming, a calibrated effort to isolate terror fountainhead Pakistan.
It's 1 year since Bangladesh was on the brink of a seismic shift. What began as student protest on 1st of July 2024, demanding reforms to a public sector job quota system, quickly escalated into a nationwide uprising that would fundamentally redefine the country's political landscape. Here's a deep dive on what's happening in Bangladesh.
For 15 years, Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of founder Mujibur Rahman, had ruled with an iron fist. But the sheer scale and intense voltage of this protest by university students shook the foundations of her government. At the core of their many grievances was a long-standing quota system they argued was used to stack the civil service with those loyal to Hasina. And when the Hasina government looked to suppress demonstrations with a heavy, brutal hand, the protests swelled and a fierce, widespread movement took off. A year on, they look back.
Many talented students are leaving Bangladesh, and one of the main reasons is this quota system. A country where 56% in government jobs is reserved for the entitled people, where there is no place for deserving people. That's why we want the evaluation of the deserving people and a solution to this quota system.
The initial peaceful protest that began on the 5th of June 2024 at Dhaka University quickly transformed. By July 1st, students from universities across the country, including Jagannath, Jahangirnagar and Rajshahi, launched coordinated movements categorically rejecting the High Court's ruling and demanding abolition of the quota. Deadly violence intensified later in July, with police opening fire on protesters. Despite curfews, the deployment of soldiers and an internet blackout, clashes continued to escalate. The human cost was staggering. Up to 1,400 people were killed in the unrest, according to the United Nations, though other reports cited a death toll of 440. The nation's vital garment industry, the world's second largest exporter, was also hit hard by the protests. 1 year on, the Muslim-majority nation of about 170 million people is in a state of political limbo, whether it admits it or not. Here are some key events in the South Asian country since protesters took to the streets a year ago. Just about a month after protests began, on the 5th of August, thousands of protesters stormed Sheikh Hasina's palace. Millions celebrated on the street on armored cars and tanks. Hasina fled. Nobel Peace Laureate Muhammad Yunus returned to Bangladesh at the behest of student protesters to lead the government as its chief advisor. He says he inherited a completely broken down system of public administration. August 5th was designated as July Uprising Day, August 8th as New Bangladesh Day. The 85-year-old microfinance pioneer embarked on an ambitious program to overhaul democratic institutions that he says are required to prevent a return to authoritarian rule. Chief Advisor Yunus warned that intense political power struggles could jeopardize gains so far, as he stressed on reforms first. He called for broader unity, warning of the risk of a return of authoritarianism. Said it's his duty to implement reforms before holding elections. He promised a vote by June 2026. Sheikh Hasina is put on trial in absentia. She is accused of having orchestrated a systematic attack that amounts to crimes against humanity. Senior figures from Hasina's government face legal and political heat. The former police chief and ex-interior minister are on trial. Under intense political pressure, Yunus has brought his election deadline forward to early April next year. He says he will step down after polls. The BNP says it wants elections before Ramzan, which begins in February. A year on, the July uprising stands a testament to the power of unified youth voices demanding change, having undeniably reshaped Bangladesh's political landscape. The Muslim-majority nation remains in political limbo, led by its caretaker government, as it navigates a complex journey towards its promised elections and a new democratic future.
A massive humanitarian crisis is unfolding in Afghanistan as over 1 million Afghan refugees from Iran and a similar number from Pakistan are pushed in. Many of them stand deported ahead of July 6 deadline set by Tehran. Within Afghanistan, lack of any readiness to house these refugees goes hand in hand with growing terror ills. Take a look at this report.
The Afghanistan-Iran Islam Kara border point. Afghan refugees returning to Afghanistan swarm the place these days ahead of Tehran's July 6th deadline. Branded as illegal foreigners, these people face an aggressive deportation campaign in Iran. 256,000 of them have come in June alone. Families who had built their lives there, often over generations, have been subjected to arrests, detention and forced return.
I've been living in Iran for about 27 or 28 years. I was born there. But the situation for Afghans is such that no matter how good you are, or even if you have valid documents, they still don't treat you with respect. There's always an insult upon their tongues, something they constantly say to us.
Women, children and elderly are among those being expelled. Legal recourse or humanitarian support is virtually unheard of. Even Afghans with valid visas and documentation are often forcibly deported.
2 of my sisters were working as street vendors and I was working at a restaurant. One day, municipal officers detained my sisters and sent them to Behzisti, which is a welfare organization. We were told to come there so they could take our fingerprints and send us home. But when we got there, all of us were taken to Bakhtiar Dasht, and from there, we were deported back to this side.
For the Taliban, the return of large numbers of Afghans is a double-edged sword. On one hand, an opportunity to claim legitimacy by welcoming back exiled Afghans. On the other, the fact that Afghanistan is unprepared to absorb mass returns as the Taliban lacks the capacity, resources and will to support tens of thousands of returnees each month. Many in the Taliban government are keen to see Afghans resettled in Iran.
We are taking note of the problems our fellow citizens are facing, including the assets they may have left behind in the Islamic Republic of Iran. We will raise these issues with the responsible authorities of the Islamic Republic and make every effort to ensure that no Afghan citizen is denied their rights in Iran.
Call it the plight of the Afghans. Neighbors fanning terrorist activity hell-bent on expelling refugees into the country. A government within that cares little for people's welfare. Afghanistan finds itself spiraling into an abyss of darkness.
India continues to extend a helping hand to the people of Afghanistan. At least 75 individuals in the conflict-hit nation have recently received a new lease of life thanks to India's assistance in providing prosthetic limbs. A recent 5-day Jaipur foot camp organized in Kabul by a charitable organization in Rajasthan has brought physical comfort and mental ease to specially abled people in 44 countries. The Indian government shared images of volunteers assisting amputees. This camp was part of India's ongoing humanitarian aid to Afghanistan. 75 prosthetic limbs were successfully fitted. The Jaipur foot has become a well-known name, especially in conflict-hit areas and war zones, where limb injuries are tragically common. This recent camp in Kabul underscores India's consistent commitment to humanitarian assistance, offering not just physical support but also renewed hope and dignity to those in need. It's a powerful example of how practical aid can significantly improve lives in regions grappling with the aftermath of conflict. From India's Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand to Pakistan's Swat Valley, both countries are battling deadly floods due to incessant rains, with climate extremes giving rise to some horrific scenes that have increasingly turned into a regular nightmare. More in our next report.
Several states in India have been reeling under floods caused by the onset of monsoon. On the 20th of June, the torrential monsoon rains hit Himachal Pradesh, a state in the north of India. It triggered incidents of cloudbursts, flash floods and landslides, claiming several human lives and disrupting normal life. The state witnessed 11 cloudburst incidents, 4 flash floods, and a major landslide on the 1st of July. Most of them are in Mandi district. Mandi also recorded an exceptionally high rainfall of 253.8 millimeters. Also, the river Beas, which brought heavy floods last year too in Mandi, was flowing above the danger level mark.
It has been raining heavily since last night. Landslides have occurred in several places. The Beas River is heavily swollen and there has been a landslide from the hill nearby. My request from the locals is that they should stay at home and not step out.
The IMD has issued an orange level warning for heavy to very heavy rains, thunderstorms and lightning for Kangra, Solan and Sirmaur. Neighboring Uttarakhand is also facing similar challenges. A devastating cloudburst on the 29th of June in Uttarakhand's Uttarkashi triggered widespread damage and chaos, leaving several workers missing and disrupting key pilgrimage routes in Uttarakhand. At least 8 construction workers are feared missing after a cloudburst led to a landslide in Uttarkashi. The cloudburst washed away a laborers' campsite where workers were staying near an under-construction hotel in the Silai area along the Yamunotri National Highway. A total of 28 construction workers were asleep at their makeshift shelter when the debris rolled down. In the aftermath, the state government on the 29th of June suspended the Char Dham Yatra for 24 hours, citing a heavy rain alert and continuing weather-related risks. The Char Dham Yatra, one of the most sacred pilgrimages in India, attracts millions of devotees each year. IMD has issued an orange alert for heavy rainfall in several hill districts of Uttarakhand for the 1st and 2nd of July. The alert covered vulnerable areas such as Chamoli, Rudraprayag, Uttarkashi, Bageshwar and Pithoragarh, where heavy rain is expected. Let's now move to Pakistan. Many people were killed in different parts of Pakistan in flash floods caused by heavy rain. On the 27th of June, at least 9 people died when floodwaters swept away children and relatives in a river in northern Pakistan. Reportedly, the family was having a picnic by the Swat River, and the children were in the water taking photos when the flood hit. Relatives rushed in to help, but they were also caught up in the deluge. Locals and more than 80 rescue workers were engaged in rescuing the survivors. Take a look at the video captured by an eyewitness.
When at 9:30 a.m. we received information that a current was coming from Khwazakela side, we have been spreading the message about it since last night, but unfortunately this family from Punjab and Sialkot reached Swat and they were having breakfast at the bypass point. Some of their children and other family members went to the river and 18 people were swept away by the water current.
Pakistan is among the most vulnerable countries to climate change across the world. Frequent heat waves and erratic rainfall lead to both floods and droughts, which are other challenges Pakistan shares with much of North India. Experts say the risk of extreme flooding will continue to rise if the world fails to limit global warming. To endure heavy rains, cities worldwide require more than just dewatering pumps and temporary solutions. We need proactive planning for both urban and rural areas before the damage becomes irreparable.
That's all we have for you in our show today, but before we go, we leave you with the visuals of two iconic spiritual journeys that are underway, Amarnath Yatra and Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. Take a look and I will see you next week.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at wion.com.
This week on West Asia Post, Iran and Israel are both claiming victory in a war that lasted 12 days. So, who actually won? Iran's missiles rained down, high-profile targets struck. A focus on Israel's scientific and military hubs that took direct blows. And a visit to the ruins of Aleppo in Syria. Mountains of rubble, shattered lives. Rebuilding remains a challenging far cry.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, every Friday at these times, only on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and on Race to Power today.